A very good morning to everyone, the esteemed speakers today, and all the students and my faculty colleagues. It's a pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity for having me moderate this very, very interesting discussion that I think is going to unfold. So, yes, as we have been hearing, the panel is on AI implementation from boardroom to execution reality. And we just heard Venugopal saying that, yes, industries are betting big, and a strategic playbook that he just shared with us turns AI ambition into enterprise impact. So, everybody is talking about AI today, whether it is traditional AI or Gen AI agents, agentic AI, everything. And every business sector, I think, educational institutes and the government, all of them are in the process of embracing AI in their own ways. So, piloting AI is easy, but creating value seems to be very hard. AI has firmly entered boardroom conversations, but the real challenge is moving from strategy slides to the on the ground execution. So that's what we'll try to unpack today, and I'm looking forward to something very interesting unfolding, the opportunities, the roadblocks, and the human side of AI implementation. And we are very fortunate to have with us four eminent speakers who bring perspectives from varied organizations in the areas of analytics, large scale integration, startups, product management, and enterprise platforms. So let me quickly begin and ask you the first question. In your experience, how ready are organizations today to move from AI strategy to execution? So anybody could take it first, whoever would like to.
It's on? Oh, okay. So, this is going to be a very subjective answer, of course, based on my experience. So, what I'm seeing is that everybody is in the experimentation stage and they have some form of strategy, but very few actually are seeing the value and especially sustainable value from using it. And but the interesting thing is, that we do have some organizations who have demonstrated value, and those are examples in front of us. The main issue that I'm seeing is that people are sort of experimenting haphazardly. So when you say going from strategy to execution, actually even the strategy is not well found for most organizations, and that's because it's so new. So it's not. It has to go through the hype cycle, right? And we have been on the first part of the hype cycle where it's going up, and everybody thinks, oh, now this will change everything. Let's try it. But now reality is setting in, which is great. We know that what doesn't work and what does work, and specifically we need to look at what I call when you set up the strategy, you need to have an AI maturity model in mind and then work towards that. And this is a business school, so I'll give you a alliterative framework. I call it 4PG. So the first P is prioritized use cases, second P is platform, and then process and people. Now this seems very common sense, but it is surprising how very few people actually do all of that. And the G is governance, which is key, what we have realized today, because especially the generative and agentic AIs have a lot of risks associated with them, so we can't go into that blindly. And then the other thing to remember, and this is where the strategy comes in, that getting to maturity in all these 5 pillars is a journey. So you have to have a 2 to 3 year roadmap and then be very, very flexible about that, right? And keep learning and adopting as you go along.
So probably I'll take it from where Sir has left. I think you have covered almost everything, right? But and from my perspective, what I want to add to what Sir said is also it's very difficult right now to gauge the value of those projects. So one thing is like the practical challenge itself, and second thing is, let's say, even if I get it done right, and there are a lot of roadblocks as well, like do you have right data, do you have right talent, and let's say if you even go through this, what's the value, right? The effort that you put in, the resources that you put in, how do you calculate the value, right? And sir was talking about, like, the company achieving 3%, which is a good number for size of company like Infosys. But let's say if a company who is much smaller has to invest, for them even probably 10% ROI may not be a good enough number to take it forward. So I think that's what I would probably want to add to what you said. But yeah, I mean, a lot of challenges, a lot of questions in front of organizations before they take the prototype to the execution stage.
So maybe let's switch the question a little bit, Suresh. If you could tell me that what, according to you, seem to be the top two challenges or roadblocks. I mean, Kaushik did mention the 4Ps G framework, right? So, I mean, if you could elaborate on the top two challenges you think.
I am going to represent the startups here. Okay, so the problems which the larger companies at size face, consulting companies face, is very different kind of the problems that are thrown to us. And because we are very nimble in responding to some of these things. And to me, there are two major problems that exist today. One is data readiness. And the second one is the guardrail debt. Data readiness, when you start on an AI project, what the missing piece in all the hype and hyperbole is the data. Unless you have a very strong foundation of data, or the data products as we call it, there is no way an AI project is going to be successful. And when you start with an AI pilot, you start with a subset of data. So most companies are very successful in delivering pilot. But the moment that pilot needs to come into production, right, that is when these companies encounter issues with data issues within the CRM, integrating with products like ServiceNow, CRM, Salesforce, SAP. Those becomes a real roadblock for implementation. Secondly is the guardrail debt. Now, if most of the companies in a hurry to show how many of their products are AI products are in production, they kind of accelerate this and to score some brownie points at the managerial levels or at the corporate levels. But what happens when the debt comes due? What you end up is compliance risk. You end up with brand risk. I think Sir alluded to Air Canada, and there are many such examples where your brand is at risk. And then you end up with a very costly retrofitting of solutions. Right? This is what's happening today. But I'm saying in next 1 year, what I foresee as a potential challenge is the inference cost. I'm sure all of you have heard about the cloud bills that are coming, and nobody knew. They put an application on cloud, and it was expecting capex to be opex, and they used to companies end up with a huge bill. So it's a similar thing is going to happen with AI. There's going to be an inference cost. And the second major thing, which a lesson from the big data world, was the vendor sprawling, right? It is a zoo out there in most of the companies, right? There are tons of technologies. None of them know what to do with it. Similar is going to happen with AI, and what we call as vendor sprawling. So, in short, these are four things that I think is.
Thank you. Sunil, would you like to also share your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. 2 points which he highlighted. I would like to add one more, which is probably a key to execute when it comes to the execution part, which is also the skills as a human, right? So while technology has moved fast, and there are set of, I would say, communities or set of people who have gone up. However, if you want to make it as a mass in terms of the execution, the skills of everyone within the organizations has to come up to a level where the AI can be leveraged the way it should be, right? Otherwise, there will be a gap in terms of, while the boardroom would say that, okay, it has to be executed, it has to be massive, but on the ground, unless the skills are there, I we're dealing with one customer where for the same problem, there are 4 projects running, right? And 4 different ways of doing the AI for the same problem. Of course, finally, it's going to be one project. So here you have a failure of 75%, right? Because, and that's where the data coming in. If you see, right, McKinsey says there are 78% of the organization they have moved for that. However, 80% of those projects are failure, right? And it is because of those. We will see all that in the initial phase of this adoption of AI from boardroom to execution, and these execution, and it's fair, right? But we all have to give that time, and so that's a challenge, which we every organization has it. What's the maturity? Because someone thinks, okay, I can do it this way, the others probably do, and there are different ways of doing that. So you would see those when the success is going to be there, there's going to be failures as well, which will, as sir also talked about the pitfalls and all, people are going to learn from those and happen it. So don't shy away or don't see that, oh, because there is a failure, I'm going to restrict and not adopt that. And fairly, of course, the boardroom and executives understand that risk, and hence the ambitions are very high and that are going to remain. Executions would take time, and just give that time to for the execution of AI in real world.
I have a question for sir. You mentioned about 4 projects tackling same problem, right?
Yeah.
So does those 4 teams knew that they're working on same problem, or they were working in silos?
No, they were working on silos. Exactly.
There you have it,
Right. And then
Yeah.
and a lot of these projects, that's where I said, right, a lot of the projects are running right now where even the boardrooms are not aware of, right? They're doing the AI projects, and it's not sponsored by CEOs, and they're just someone just running it, and then that comes in, and that's right. And that's where we were asked a consultant, okay, look at these 4 projects, consolidate it, and then see which one, right? So that's a strategy which is now then they realize, someone comes in and finds out there are 4 or 5 projects running for the same problem. It's being a large organization, some are using this tool, some are using that tool, but for the same problem.
So actually, I have to agree. Sadly, this is something that I have also seen. And what Venu said, one of the things he said that is really I really like is that you have to think of the AI operating model at the organization level. And again, he's right. It has to be a federated model, because it can be completely centralized,
True.
especially in a big organization. You are kind of stifling creativity and not getting the full value. But it can be a completely bottoms up, free for all either, right? So then you have an AI council which has the bird's eye view of all the data, and AI all have to be combined in one. It has to be one view of that. Just like you cannot have data in silos, you also cannot have projects going on in silos, and that AI council has to have the view of the entire thing, and that really solves a lot of problems. And that's why I have the G, the governance, right? For PG, it's really important. I mean, it's an extra effort and a sort of initial cost, but it pays for itself manifold.
Very interesting. So, yes, as your 4 Ps also mentioned, and as Sunil mentioned, that skills become very important, people become very important. And of course, a very interesting thought that came out was that, you don't want to do anything which top management is not giving you the blessings for, right? Because otherwise things can go haywire and people are working in silos. But yes, so AI is obviously not just about data and technology, right? It's about entire organizations, all the people within the organization. And it may see shifts, right, in roles, responsibilities. So what do you think, and how do you think people in organizations will be impacted in the AI era? Anybody can take it up.
Yeah, so maybe I'll go first. Again, sir has mentioned about 16 new roles, right? And some of the roles which came up in last 2 years, right? So idea is that yes, it's going to impact everything. It's going to impact the roles. It's going to impact the responsibilities. It's going to impact the company. I would say that AI is actually impacting the culture itself, right? Culture of organization, culture of the way the sir again mentioned, right? Netflix We watch the series which Netflix is suggesting us, not that we want to watch, right? So it's changing the entire culture. And definitely, and one thing we have to understand is that it is here to stay. Okay, how long, what next, probably we can debate, but it is here to stay, and we have to adapt to it. Roles means that, the way you're doing things now will change. Okay, definitely, sir mentioned about reporting. There are a lot of other tasks which is automated, okay, which will go away. But then, the relationship between human and machine goes, like, dates back to thousands of years, right? It's not the first time we are facing a machine, but this beast is different, isn't it? But at the same time, you need to have human in the loop, right? Okay, so you automate stuff, you make sure that things which can be automated using AI goes there, and you bring in, I was reading somewhere, and it is stuck to me. It said that the engineers of future are going to be HR of AI systems. You are not going to build them, but you're going to monitor them, make sure that they do the right things. And so the responsibilities would change, the organizations would change, they would probably adopt new systems, and better systems, where human is more about managing it, making sure that it does the right thing. Okay, and generally what we discuss internally in our company when we look at multiple projects is that we shouldn't ask ourselves, or we should ask, but probably at the end, the first question we should ask ourselves is, what are we building? Okay, why are we building, and who benefits it? So if you have a perfect question for why and who, then rest will fall in place. So before you start doing any AI project, understand what is the purpose behind it, why are we building it, and if you have the right answer to it, and who is going to benefit it is the human, right? Ultimately it is the society. Even Varun sir mentioned about the people, society, and planet at large. Is it going to help them? Right now, if you talk about nuclear energy, you can use to bomb a city, or you can use it to generate electricity. So it's with us, how do we use it? So the roles, responsibilities, and the way company is going to work is going to change. It's not going to, doesn't mean that we are going to have less people. It's going to mean that people will be doing things differently.
Right. So taking that forward, maybe Suresh, you could throw some light on what human AI work configurations do you see emerging?
So I think we just at the start of the entire human AI work models. I think there's going to be a spectrum of those, right? But as we see today, on one side you have agents working on routine tasks, right? And those are tasks where you can do policy fencing, you can put a guardrail and governance around it, and most of it is to a large extent driven by some sense of policy. On the other side, humans are now getting into what I think Swapnil you referred to as human in the loop. So humans are now going to be gatekeepers or gate approvers, and are going to help solve edge cases, helping with exceptions and things like that. So that combination is what is existing today, and you will see this gravitational shift happening gradually across the industry. Now, in my mind, it is not man versus machine. It is man with machine. And I think together they're going to orchestrate something which is more powerful than what each one of them could have individually achieved. Maybe yes.
Right.
Makes
Would
sense.
anybody like to add to that?
Yeah, probably right. I think if you see the transition right now, we are more using AI as an assistant. Tomorrow we would use it probably more as AI driving some of these things independently. But I think the way, to my vision, as probably talked about, is that would become as a colleague, right? So you would have AI as your colleague to go ahead and work together. And a lot of roles are going to revive with that. And I come from an enterprise architect background now, right? And I would call that, if now without AI, I just call myself as an enterprise architect, probably would not make sense. It would be an enterprise AI architect. the way data architect become enterprise data architect, right? So some of these roles, even the project managers, right? And in fact, so one of my colleague who is an enterprise architect, he was finding it difficult to basically get a project and things, right? Because the customers are now, even if it's enterprise architect, how much you know about AI? Because my business processes and things are not going to have AI interventions in it. So you have an idea, do you have things? So unless, so he got trained into those, he got knowledge into that, then he got a project. So that's where some of these roles and new roles are going to get evolved. We talked about, there are roles which is coming up, AI ethics, AI auditors, right? Who, because once you implement it, a lot of these things are going to go and within organization. So new roles are going to come up, and everywhere, either as a developer of AI or as a consumer of AI, you would have to decide one of these two and then leverage AI in either way.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Kaushik, Gen AI, agentic AI, I mean, we just heard all of that. They are all just dominating the headlines today, right? Which of these do you think is going to have the most immediate enterprise impact, if at all? And if where and why?
So, any forecasting about answering this sort of question is very dangerous in today's world. I
You'll
will
be
say
quoted.
one thing and then
Your
tomorrow
thoughts.
you will.
You'll be
No, so
quoted.
your thoughts. Your thoughts.
Yes, yes. So I will tell you what I am seeing. So while Gen AI is very useful, but I'm seeing that the areas where agentic AI is being applied is much bigger. So in that sense, I feel the applications in the enterprise world would be more from that, at least initially. And I'll give you some examples. So think about Gen AI, right? I mean, we can actually now create, for instance, personalized training, whether for consumers or for our own employees, using Gen AI, which was not something that you couldn't personalize these things to that extent. It took people, but now it is so easy to do that. And when I said training, it's not just the training material, is even how it's administered. Like for instance, I am I'm busy during the week, and I'll do some focus on training during the weekend. So I will do it that way. But Sunil, maybe he likes to spend half an hour in the morning, every morning, right? Every day. So for him, that is better. So the whole way that we are training in the industry can be revolutionized using Gen AI. But on the other hand, what agentic AI does is that it enables us to use LLMs to completely reimagine processes. So again, what Venu said, I really liked. He says, that BI as it exists today will completely be transformed because maintaining thousands of reports. So I'll tell you one retail company I'm working with right now, through Tiger. They said that they have more than 4,000 reports that they have to maintain, and 90% of them are hardly used. So, but they don't know. You don't want to pull down a report because it might be that even if it's used by one person once, it might be useful. So all of that will be replaced by virtual agent who will give the right insight, the right prediction, and even the right action at the right time, and they will generate the reports as needed on a contextual manner. So that's the power of agentic AI. So I'm seeing much more impact and use of that, at least in the short term.
Okay,
I have
anybody else
a-
would please like to.
I have a point on that. In my mind, and it's a controversial thing, the line always get drawn. So in my mind, I keep telling this, and Gen AI is going to win the sprint of adoption, whereas agentic AI is going to win the marathon of transformation. So that's how I have it in mind. And then the reasons are very simple, right? Gen AI solutions are easy to adopt. People understand it. The ROIs are easily realizable. You can You can do research on it. You can do coding. You can prepare an article with very least amount of training. Just little common sense applied. But when it comes to agentic AI, it is yet to become a male. Okay, and when I say it is not a gender, but think about it, right? If a solution needs to be in production in any company, one of the factors that was brought about was reproducibility. But beyond that, there are 4 things which are called the male, with M standing memory, right? And a solution needs to have a memory of what you need to do. Second is adaptability. You need to, this agentic AI solution has to adapt to the situations in which are the problems that are thrown to it. Second, it has to learn, right? There's very little scope for humans to be in the loop. So it has to learn. And the fourth is the explainability. The system has to be at any given point in time able to explain what it is. So that's that male that we're talking about. Because this male capabilities are there in human. So if an agentic AI is here to not technically replace it or to augment, these male capabilities are required. And hence, I kind of bring this analogy about, a sprint versus marathon.
So, leading on from that, Suresh, with emerging AI technologies, there are going to be multiple risks that organizations are going to must have to deal with, right? So, what kind of guardrails and that need to be put in place to maybe future-proof the organizations so that they can keep experimenting with these technologies and yet, reduce the risk?
So, guardrails as an emerging topic today is at the very nascent stage. Okay, so things that are known are codified, and when it comes to implementation, what companies like us, and we don't have the funds of Google's and things like that, but I think what as system integrators or consulting companies, we are codifying the policies. And we are using bot against the bot. So for example, if I have to set in certain guardrails for a company, the easiest way we are going about implementing is we create, I do not know if you, I'm sorry to go a little bit technical on this, I have to, we will be using an LLM model to check on the guardrails that are implemented by another model. And things like, if you have heard LLM judges and things like that, those frameworks are coming in place. So importance of guardrails is definite, but mostly it is a translation of a policy into a system.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So maybe if I could take up an individual question with all of you. Sunil, you are at the intersection of enterprise architecture and AI. And we've been speaking, he just mentioned, bots against bots. So how do you think AI is reshaping enterprise architecture and, the role of enterprise architects? I think we also heard Venugopal talking about the architecture behind all of this. So if you could elaborate on that.
Correct, right? So when we talk about enterprise architect, you know that it kind of from a stakeholder visions and actually gets translated very well from a boardroom to execution, right? That's where the EA plays that role, and hence in each stage he would have to understand what's the AI strategy or vision and how I need to put the governance in place, making sure the things which you talked about, 4 projects running, if you have a right EA tools which are in place, you would know that there are 4 different tools, 4 different technologies, someone using OpenAI, someone using Llama. So all that as an enterprise architect would have to make sure there is a governance in place from an AI vision to architecture perspective. There is a things which I talked about, guardrails and things, because in an enterprise, when you are working, you would have to know where and how your data is going to go beyond there and how it is restricted. Are you ensuring that your AI chatbot or things is referring to the document which an enterprise has it and not answering beyond that? So you put a guardrails about making sure that it is within the restricted enterprise environment where your AI model is responding to your going to. It is very transparent. it is making sure that it is not using the bias of, so all those governance, transparency, data privacy, security, all that is there in your AI solution before it goes into production. A lot of these things are actually getting controlled, and hence you don't see in production is because of enterprise architect, right? Because they put those systems, making sure that is that all confined to, for some of the customer, we have to sign a complete document list of it. Is your model ensuring this? Is your model? And that is coming from their enterprise architect teams to make sure that, because you can't have failures or you can't have pitfalls like Air Canada, which we saw it, right? So, and that's our learning, right? And that's where people have started coming up with those policies, those things to make sure that's the reason the EA role will now become much more important from that aspect which they have been doing from this. Now they have to wear the hat of, as I said, enterprise AI architect for the journey.
Thank you. Thank you. Kaushik, given your consulting and advisory background, what do you think is the most significant gap from boardroom AI strategies to, actual ground level education? I mean, we have been speaking about it, but, and which do you think, I mean, today, which companies seem to be navigating all of this very well?
So actually, the big gap is a lack of a complete strategy. So if you think of the journey, and the stages of the journey to being a truly AI driven organization, you start with experimentation. And I think all of us must have read that MIT report, which says, 90% of these pilots haven't led to any value so far. So the experimentation part, almost everybody is doing. And part of the reason is, the ecosystem is very good today. Like even 10 years ago, if you had to do things, you had to hire your own team, developers, engineers, everything. And now a lot of that is available. Both, some of it has been automated. You can do yourself. Some of that you have, consulting organizations, part of the ecosystem will come and do that for you. But then going from that to operationalization and then scaling and then organizational transformation, you have to think of that, and the sooner you think of that the better, right? Because it's going to take time, and if you think of it later, there is a lot of wasted effort and delay. So that is the most significant gap that I'm seeing very clearly. And then the next one, of course, is the mindset, right? Because we are talking about organizational transformation, that means there has to be change management, and people have to think of what they are doing in the processes differently. So I really liked what you said about humans becoming the HR for AI. And see, whether if you have an augmented system, of course there is a human in the loop, but even if you have an autonomous system, there is a human in the loop, because someone has to take care of the governance, the policies, and see how it's evolving. So we are still at the very early stages of that. And in terms of companies who are doing it better than others, it's amazing, because it's not like I don't see a pattern there. I see like some companies in almost every domain who have, gone ahead and doing well. Because see, this is one of the advantages when you are in a transformational phase like this, when a new technology has come in, it's very, very a good opportunity for anyone to leapfrog, right? So companies who were doing very well, or even, if you think of your careers, this is a very good time to enter into the industry, because very few people have any advantage over you, right? Because you can go and learn everything, because all of this is new. So I think this is the companies that you're seeing today who are doing well. 1 year from now, it will be a completely different set of companies.
Yes. Thank you. Swapnil, can you share with us that from your client base, what adoption patterns are you seeing?
Okay, yeah. So the industry that we are in, ticketing and IT service management probably is one of the easiest to implement AI systems, and we've been at the forefront of implementing it. So so that way, we kind of lead this. So if you look at last few years, like last 4 to 5 years, if you see, especially COVID actually pushed us to do a lot of these new things as well. Was we started with automation, where you can use AI in ServiceNow as a assistant, okay, and automating a lot of reports. You don't spend time in creating tickets. In fact, now when you get a call and you open the ServiceNow page, a lot of information will already be filled in your form. You don't have to enter who called you, what time, what problem they have. Everything is filled. You just have to read, make sure that it's correct, and you submit it. Okay, so we have gone past that, and companies have, all our customers have adopted it very nicely. The second part is where you are using AI as more like a collaborator. Okay, so the reporting, okay, so a lot of reporting have been automated, especially if you have to look at, depending upon what areas you look at, reports are already there. You again, those reports you can tweak, you can customize, you can drag and drop stuff, but still it's already there. So it's like a next level where you can do risk analysis. You could do, you can have a look at what your systems or your department is doing, which again is I wouldn't say it as broad and as adopted as the automation, but we are there. Okay, so our customers have accepted it that we can do it. The third is where we want to make AI as a decision makers. Okay, we are working with multiple partners, and thanks to agentic AI, which probably if we were to meet same room last year, wouldn't be talking about that word, right? And today we are talking about cases, the things which are already been implemented, and companies have started realizing at least that it's there in the field. It's there in the field. People can test it. So we are using that Zurich, which got released a couple of weeks back. We have built in a lot of agents, AI agents into that, which will probably take us to giving customer a good experience. So we are not there; we just started, but hopefully we partner with multiple of our clients and partners, and hopefully we'll see more such adoption in future. So I think we are there in every aspect. Probably this kind of industry we are in. Maybe if you are healthcare or finance, probably wouldn't have gone that far. But at least that as a company, we are making use of that, and we are making sure that customer gets a good experience of using our product, using AI and the technologies.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, we have a whole lot of students over here today, and it would be nice to know from all of you that, preparing them for leaders of tomorrow, what capabilities should they build to, help them bridge this kind of a gap from strategy to actual execution?
Right.
So
Anybody? Yeah.
no, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
So I actually get this question a lot. So I've thought about it, and I've tried to think about it. What has happened to my life and my career, and what if somebody had told me when I was starting my career, what would be the best advice? So because things are changing so fast, I think that the three things that I think are very important. First is concepts. So every new product has comes up with a lot of hype and some capabilities. You have to look beyond that and understand conceptually what it's doing, right? Because AI is a sort of an hold all word, right? There are many different technologies, products, capabilities in there. Understand them conceptually and don't get tied to a particular product. Secondly, application. See, if you think of any general purpose technology and especially AI, there is a research and development part where the technology is being created. But then how it's being used across every sector of the economy, that takes a lot of work. And in the diffusion part, we are still at very early stages. So there is a lot of opportunity there. I mean, there's opportunity in R&D too, but there's a huge opportunity in diffusion. So here, if you can focus and gain expertise in certain domains and functions, that is very useful, because then whatever technology comes, and as technology changes, you're an expert in the domain. You will be able to figure out how to use that. to bring value. And finally, be flexible. Be very flexible. So, like for instance, even the question about genuine agentic AI, and you said, 1 year ago we wouldn't have
Yes.
had that question.
And 1
So-
year later, there'll
And
be a
1 year
different
later,
landscape.
yes.
We don't
So
know.
we don't know what we'll be doing. So be very flexible and curious. That is very important. And don't hesitate to experiment. And one of the things, that I have learned the hard way, that experimentation means there will be failures. That is fine. The question is what you learn from the failure and go on. When you look back, people will not remember the failures. They will give you credit for the successes, even if you had 99 failures and then you had the 100 success. So, but the important thing is, not to sort of get discouraged, but keep experimenting with technologies and see where it is working, where it's successful. And an experiment that fails is also great because you have experimented and you have learned.
Yeah. Suresh, you
Yeah,
wanted
no,
to add? Thank you so much.
Yeah, I wanted to share a recruiter's perspective on this. Okay, so I head consulting. I love young talents, and I prefer to hire people without gray hairs. so, I look at it this way, very simple terms. Okay.
What about no hair?
Yeah, no hair. Welcome. You leave a lot of ambiguity on the table. So and my recruiters ask me this, right? The HR asked me, hey, what kind of people do you want? They ask me for JD. I say I can't give you JDs, right? Because of the very reason that if I miss out agentic AI, I would have probably filtered some of the best guys. So simple answers, and I think I do not know if it will be useful for all of you. I look at it this way, right? Now the industry requires T-shaped individuals or talents, right? And by that I mean is from a B school perspective, the industry needs people with strong business fundamentals, right? No compromise on that. Second, deep domain knowledge, right? That's the I part of it, right? The vertical part of it. And a broad AI data literacy, right? A broad set of knowledge is required. Those are the people who are required in the industry. And why do you need this, right? Very simple. I'll translate that into my real life problems, right? I need an MBAs who come from B schools to be able to frame a problem. And I think Venu sir highlighted that brilliantly by saying it's not the answer, it is a problem, it's a question, right? Framing a problem is very critical to building an agentic AI or AI solutions. Otherwise, what we will do is we will end up automating what is already bad, right? So we want somebody who can frame the problem. And for that, all these knowledge is important. And not just framing the problem, tying that back to the P&L. Otherwise, it will become a science project. So tying back that to a problem will require deep domain expertise, right? Secondly, you should be AI and data literate. Otherwise, your engineers and architect will take you for a ride, right? Number 3, governance and risk awareness. All this, we talked about biggest risk about guardrail debt. You never know what is going to hit, a couple of $1 million of losses. So a business person should be able to anticipate what could go wrong and be able to say what is the governance risk associated with a solution like this. And today earlier I talked about guardrails. Today it is about policy translations into guardrails, which is taking a rule book and putting into an AI. But for that is because we lack imaginations today, right? So that's the third part. Fourth one is communication. Ability to communicate the problem, and when you build a solution, to communicate back to the consumers in the organization or outside the organization what this product can actually do. Very difficult job. To get talented communicators in the market is very difficult. And finally, that bit of creativity, right? A little bit of craziness is required in individuals who can think beyond what all of us gray hair people think about, right? We are so used by a sense of recencies in our life that we are a little scared of thinking, just going about the edge on the risk, right? Edge of the risk. And that's when the creative talent comes in. And all this summing up is what is required, because remember, you guys are not going to be just building AI tools, right? You're going to be managers who are going to orchestrate this combination of human and AI work models that we earlier spoke about. So that's a quick gist of what I think the talent requires today, as expected from the talent.
can add one point here. So I think very well said, because the silos are getting over. So you cannot say that a manager and he's an engineer. One thing I would want to add to whatever we have discussed here is that we all have to learn the ability to learn. Okay, that means that you have to be open. Okay, it means that sometimes you have to be slow. Sometimes it means that you have to go back and see what happened. Okay, be always open to ideas, be open to new technologies, be open to suggestions which are coming from all the directions. So learn that ability to learn.
Great, thank you very much. So maybe let's we've had a great discussion amongst ourselves, but let's try and open up the questions for the students. If anybody would like to ask questions.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Gitika Bhatia, and thank you so much for your insightful panel discussion. I think the first question I had was about the skills that we as business students should have, but I think Aditi ma'am, you already covered that. The second question I had was that since AI is moving into technical skills and data-driven decision making, what do we as business students should hone in the human skills that we should retain that AI can, hopefully won't, replicate or take over in the future? So what do you think are the human skills that we should retain and which will be really beneficial for the business?
Yeah. So one thing that comes to my mind is about ethics. Okay. So when you look at any project, right, and more so about AI projects these days, there are three things that you should ask yourself. Okay. One thing is, what is the purpose of this project? Okay. Now, purpose will test your skills of human relationship. Okay. Where this project is going, who is getting impacted. Second thing is ethics. Okay, ethics is more so important, as we spoke about, right? One of your friend presented in the morning that everything is getting amplified by AI. So ethics probably, again, we're talking about ethics since ages, but with the nature of the project that we have right now, it becomes even more important. Okay, if you are developing a project which probably is going to create more harm than good, okay, you should think about it, right? We spoke about, and probably if you Google, you'll get a lot of projects which companies started and they had to plug off because it wasn't supposed to do it was supposed to do, right? It was going somewhere different direction. So ethics, and then impact. Is it impacting our planet? Varun sir also mentioned earlier. Okay. Now, if you think from these three perspectives, all your human skills, from my perspective, will come on the table. And you need to build that in you.
If I may add to
Yes,
that,
sure,
I completely agree with that. But I also think that creativity is very important and will become much more important as more and more of the mundane tasks will be taken over by AI. Because as Suresh pointed out, what is the question to ask? What is the use case that you have to formulate that needs to be solved? And remember, this is not a one-time thing. That evolves with time. So it's actually a very difficult task, and it requires, and creativity is not just, sleeping and getting an idea. It requires deep knowledge of the domain to know what is going on, to then you can think of what can be changed and what would make a difference. So adding to that, I agree with what he said.
I would add one more point. The cross-functional skills add that. Right, because a lot of these models and things probably, or what they would work more on the functional side, and a lot of cross-functional skills will help you to go beyond from an organization and the execution I just said, because each of these would work more of a functional way. So if you build your cross-functional skill right from HR to finance to operations and things, how they operate, how they work, probably will help you in your getting what exactly from a boardroom to execution helping. And of course, everyone talked about the creativity and things, right? Always, like, think of a chess game, right? Human plus AI will always outbeat just a human or just a AI, right? So think from that perspective and build your skills.
Just on the topic, do you guys learn design thinking here?
Yes.
That's an awesome stuff. Human-centric design thinking, having empathy is very important. Okay, and I'm not saying this as a theoretical conversation, right? When you're starting to build these design, where you guys come into picture is to look at the problem from a very different angle that the problem thrown at you. I'll give a very simple example. The other day, a customer came to us in the pharma industry. They came to us with a solution to say, I want to do a email triaging using agentic AI. Right? So they have tons of email coming from pharmaceutical company. They're doing a proof of service business, essentially just taking pharmaceuticals and servicing the downline physicians and things who are servicing them. The only job, it's a low value job, they're putting tons of money just email sorting, right? Now we looked at the problem and then we said, we just asked the stupid question. We could have lost the business by asking that question, right? We asked the question, why do you want to spend millions of dollars just for sorting emails? Then the person on the other side started to pour in his sad life about how he spends 9 to 15 hours in the office and started to crimping open, just barely about to open his personal life to us. That is how sad he was. We ended up giving him an agentic AI solution that solves a core problem of managing proof of service. When the conversation started with email sorting, we ended up with providing a solution which is agentic AI driven with very limited human in the loop solution. And that involves that design thinking element, that empathy about to listen to what somebody is saying and understanding what the core problem behind it and finding a human solution for it. So don't take that design thinking subjects, don't bunk the classes.
Thank you
So
so much.
one thing that came to my mind is that, so you spoke about Excel sheet, 4,000 Excel sheet, email sorting. So all these are problems created by humans, right? We created the problems. Now we want AI to solve the problem for us. So good for us.
Any more? Yeah.
Hi everyone. This is Meghna Sharma here, and thank you again for taking your time out and being here. My question goes back to the discussion where we mentioned AI being an assistant to us currently, and in the near future being more of a colleague to us. And like Kaushik, so you rightly mentioned that in the future AI could be more on a strategizing position for us, and with you mentioning very little human element to it, my question is, where do we draw the line? Or if in the future the line really does exist, do we see AI taking that pedestal of the decision making authority and not just formulating but also executing strategies for companies at large? And how, as future leaders of tomorrow, do we tackle that?
My question would be, why do you want to draw the line? Right? It's there, use it responsibly.
I know it's a loaded question, right? So I look at it this way, right? In all our life, right? I think there has been times when Excel was challenged as some intervening into finance people, their accounting life, long time back. So AI is now similar technology interventions. When these technology interventions happen, right, there is always a human shift towards the other side, right? We always find creative ways to do something more important. I think Venu sir alluded to that in his presentation, right? We think our job is to do mundane tasks, right? And that's because we are used to doing it, right? So if I'm an accountant, if I'm doing in Excel, and if somebody had given me an ERP, I would think, why, right? Why would I do it, right? I'm so happy doing this routine, difficult job of excelling into. I was so happy doing it for 20 years. Why should I move to ERP, right? That's the same question we are asking today. Why do you want to shift to AI? I'm so busy, 9 to 12 job, 9 to 10 job. I'm so happy keeping myself busy. Here is going to give you more time to do a lot of other stuff, right? Maybe you take up a more strategic role, right? You get chance to rethink about solutions that didn't have the opportunity to think. Go play badminton, right? After 5, right? That's what I'm doing. I've That's my passion project. If I lose my job, I'm going to play badminton. So, so,
So actually, yes, so I'm, also in that vein, would ask you back the question that imagine all the jobs that exist today that we know about, they have all been automated and AI is doing that. In this world, what would you like to do? Right? Because see, human ingenuity and creativity is very deep. We always want to do more. And maybe we will just want to create art. I don't know. But there are so many things because, John Maynard Keynes, the economist, he said after the Second World War that we have solved all of humanity's problems because we now can produce enough food. We have agricultural technology, we have healthcare. So now the work will grow less and less and people will only work 2 days a week. And he said this in the 1950s, but that's not what happened, right? Because we drove that edge forward and found more things to do and made our lives richer, right? So I think this is a tremendous opportunity. And basically, I ducked your question because I actually don't know where to draw the line. So I think that we'll have to just go with it and see where it leads us and be creative.
good question, though.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. One last question.
Hi, I'm
Or do we
Rishabh
have
Nema.
time? I'm not sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Do
Go
we have
ahead.
time?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you for the panel being here, and on behalf of the cohort, thank you for sharing the insights. My question comes from a point of view when we are joining back the industry and we're working on consulting projects where we are suggesting clients to implement or adopt to AI. What are the key parameters we have to evaluate on while we are suggesting AI adoption?
I think the ROI would be the first one, right? Because you are the business students, right? So anything which you do it, ROI would become your first parameter. And of course, then all others which you talked about, I think in terms of sustainability, your sustainability, organization sustainability, society sustainability, right? Think from those perspective. But finally, from consulting or anything which you talk about, customer would look at ROI as the key parameter. Then all others would definitely, yours, if it is depending on the business or solution, which customer you are solving it, customer satisfaction, NPS score, all that would come in. But finally, for a business, it would be ROI. At least that's what we get measured for. So,
And I would want to say that, see, don't think of it as an AI project. It's a problem, customer problem, solve it. It requires you to use hammer. If it requires you to use plier, right? Don't go with pre-mindset that AI, okay? And that's where most of the problem fails in the boardroom. Okay? That's the exact reason, because everybody wants to talk about AI. So first word you utter is AI, and then you don't know what to do next. Understand what you want to do next, then you see the role of AI there.
yeah, there could be better solutions than using AI, right? But now, of course, everyone's minded how we can solve this problem using AI, right? So, which, of course, should be thought through thoroughly and then do.
Because remember, even with the customer, you're establishing a relationship. So it's important to be honest and give the best advice for them. So if AI is not the right way, be very honest, and then they'll come back to you with other problems.
Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe one last question. Yes. Go ahead. Can you pass the mic there?
No, I had a question.
Oh, okay. The question, the direction got hijacked. The person with the mic.
Thank you.
Never mind, we'll come there. Yeah.
Okay, so sir, we see that data is the foundation layer for any AI project, and in academia we see a lot of data sharing and knowledge sharing between institutions. But in industry, I don't think that is the norm, right? Because customer data privacy and such issues bound us. But do you think there is any way we can get to that level where for a problem, industry and collaborators can come together and train a specific AI agent or LLM on shared data to solve problems at a larger level, or that is still something that is only hypothetical in nature?
I have a very negative answer for this, so I'll wait for somebody else to give a positive one.
So actually, that is a very good question because I'm dealing with exactly that problem. So for instance, if you go to Salesforce, a whole agent force, you will see that they have, you can create an application, but they will have strict guardrails that you cannot share the data. So I think that it is still a situation where people are very, very careful about what they're doing. Once governance is well established, both at the organization level and at the sectoral level, and people are comfortable with what they can share and what they can't, then I think that will become easier. But right now it is very difficult, and I agree with you that if we could share it, we could, yeah, sort of train better.
As at the risk of sounding the pessimist in the room, I'm going to tell you a few things, right? As much as we wanted it to be, okay. Now, there are two aspects that is influencing this thought, okay. One is the commercial interest of all the people who are in business. There's a commercial interest of not sharing the data, right? Both from a business standpoint, who are running the business, the brick and mortar business, as well as enterprise solution customers. I'll give you a few examples on that one point. SAP, to a large extent, used to be very open about who can access the data within SAP. Okay? So was Salesforce, so was ServiceNow, and I'm sorry, I'm having a Salesforce ServiceNow guy sitting next to me, but but yeah, they have their commercial interest in place. Now, what they are now doing is, from being an open enterprise solutions, they are now being very careful about who and how they can access the systems, so that they don't lose the revenue. Data is revenue, right? So they're being very careful about who can do it. So they have started to put a curb on the connectors, who can build the connectors, how they can build the connectors. They started to do it. And most of this they are now bringing in as a source of internal revenue, right? So that's from a commercial interest standpoint. Now, let's look at it at a different angle from a brick and mortar company. Would you think HLL and another FMCG would be keen to share their customer data? They could mutually benefit, correct? Right? But they wouldn't, right? So that's again, commercial interest overrides the general interest, right? Now, there's another thing, and I'm sure, I do not know how many of you are following. There's a conversation being in the industry, and I think it's getting popular, and I might end up writing something about it. It's called data sovereignty. Right? It's the mother of GDPR, right? That can put a spanner to everything what we are planning to do in the progress of AI. Right? And a lot of governments have to start to think about it and have to come together to, before this baby becomes a larger mammoth. Right? So, right? So because once it gets there, it becomes very difficult to solve. Right? So, but amongst all this small shade, there are companies like Experian, there are companies like Dun & Bradstreet, the Nielsen of the world, who are trying to do their little bit. But, yeah, so a very negative answer, but that's
I
the
don't
Okay,
think it was negative. I think it was very what do you call futuristic answer, right? You are very positive about future.
but I will, if I may, I will try to provide a counterpoint. You gave the HLL example, but in the and it's true, you cannot get HLL data, but in the US you can get retail data, because what happened there, the industry reached a stage where the big players were comfortable. They were not in the highly competitive situation, so they formed a syndicate. And then it's not all of data, but in the US you can get data at the UPC level, at the product level, the price, the actual price, and feature, discount, the basic promotions at the store group level. So there is some level of disguise, and this is the store data, and this is an old, few decades old, and Nielsen and IRI, you can buy that data. Anybody can buy that data. Interestingly enough, again, it's not complete because Walmart doesn't participate in that, so it's not complete. But you can, it helps, to build models to understand the market. So think that even looking beyond what you said, because what you said is absolutely correct, but going beyond, I can see a scenario where some such things might be possible also.
Industry survives on optimistic people.
And the problem that companies like ServiceNow is facing is there's a lot of government regulations that have come in. GDPR, even Indian government is putting up some rules. Yeah, it's our own GDPR. So the thing is, yes, it's going to be a challenge, and we all understand that it's important. So there's a lot of work which is happening in the back end. Okay, like how do you set up guardrail? How do you set up privacy? How do you make sure that the right data goes through? So a lot of work is happening in the back end. A lot of restrictions are there. So maybe in future we might have some good news on that. But right now, of course, yes, that's the case.
Okay, thank you. Thank
You've
you.
opened up a can of worms.
So, yes, one last question. That's it. I mean, there was somebody raising their hand there, and then we will.
Can I ask one, ma'am?
No, let the mic go there.
All
no?
right, all right.
They've been raising their hands since a long time. Maybe we can then meet them off the stage for more. Sure.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful discussion. My question is a lot of discussions around agentic AI. LLMs are at the heart of agentic AI. And we are currently dependent upon OpenAI, Gemini as LLMs for building these AI agents. My question is, will organizations will need LLMs on their own? And second question is, the big organizations like Infosys, TCS have lots of cash reserves. Why they are not building their own LLMs?
So maybe I can answer some bit of it. So building LLM is pretty expensive affair, right? So at least the services organizations which are there probably won't go there, right? Because there is already so much of there. They can build SLMs and things from a business perspective, but not necessarily the LLMs. But having said that, you would have seen yesterday only the government is actually on a mission to help organization and bring organizations together, some of them, to build LLMs within India. So I think some of those initiatives may actually have other organizations also to build LLMs. But right now, yeah, you're right. The services organizations are more relying on the hyperscalers only, and then they would build SLMs as in business or specifics is the scenario, at least.
So think about it, like there is R&D and there is diffusion. So there is a feedback loop between them. So when in the application you see that this LLM is not working, then the need will come up for a new LLM or an SLM, and then there would be positive ROI for that. And only then will companies build it. So hypothetical example would be, let's say, oil industry, right? So today, LLM doesn't have data for, say, let's say, how to run a refinery, with automated maintenance and everything. There it might make sense to build an SLM or an LLM specifically with data from that. So you have to, I think there will be some, there will be a lot of experimentation on the language model front, but I think what we have already, we still haven't used it at all to its potential. So there's a lot of room there,
And companies are actually building, at their own level, right? ServiceNow, we have built our own LLM model where you can write ServiceNow code using the inbuilt model that comes with the installation. So yes, there are a lot of challenges, security and privacy, things like that, but companies are doing on their own. So it's there, probably you'll see in near future.
And of course, ServiceNow, we still think as an ISV more than the services organization, and that's the reason.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, done. One last one. One last one. Anshul sir, one last one. Done. Time up. Okay. I'm sorry. Can you meet them off stage? So thank you very much for this very, very insightful.
Thank you, everyone.
Very insightful and interesting discussion. I think I'll just quickly summarize, if you may. And so, what we've heard is yes, organizations are very excited and jumping in, but readiness is uneven. We've heard that strategies and policies are still evolving, right? And some of the takeaways from this discussion that we can pick up is the 4PG, which was very interesting: prioritize, platforms, process, people, and governance, right? And of course, also the human in the loop. The HR for AI was a very interesting takeaway, that humans can become actually gatekeepers. And together, human and AI work configurations are likely to orchestrate something very powerful as a whole. And of course, to do all of this for execution, mindsets completely need to change, and change management, as you said, needs to really be rolling up. So thank you very much. This was very interesting and insightful, and I'm sure students and everyone has had a lot of takeaway. Thank you.